the microphone on. That always helps. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for the 10th meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. And may we use our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Thank you. Okay, we have before us the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of February 24, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve same, waiving reading thereof?
So moved.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Okay, this brings us to our first public comment portion. We have a couple of guests with us here today. I'd like to introduce Mandy Nagel and Jerome Barclay. Anything you care to say or share, or you're just guests and making yourselves available if we have any questions, thoughts, concerns, and for some context, if I could indicate that Mandy is the Senior Communications Representative at the Perry Nuclear Power Plant, and Jerome, he's kind of the shortstop. I'm just going to say that. As many years as I've known you, you've pretty much done it all, so I can't think of any official title that would actually encapsulate all that. So Jerome is the go-to guy. So with that, all right, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board? Is there anyone at all? Sorry, I have to pull Mr. Massey's leg every now and again. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive. I have two items. First, I'd like to publicly thank Mr. Hackman for following through on my request at the last meeting. He did provide me this morning with the information on the surety bonds versus insurance. So, Mr. Hackman, thank you so much. I will write about this on lobbyistforcitizens.com, and so that will educate the people on surety bonds. The second item is it goes back to October 12th, 1920. There was a Lake County Commissioners meeting. A Lake County lobbyist informed me about that, and he had some questions. It's called the Unified Policy and Documentation System. And I did look at the video. I didn't happen to be at the meeting, but I'm not sure what the Unified Policy and Documentation is all about. And it was purported to be very historic, but I don't know if we have followed through on that. So I'm just wondering if, Commissioner, if you could tell me and educate the public what it was for, and has it been implemented? If it has not been implemented, why has it not been implemented?
Okay, I'm assuming you said, I may have misheard you when you said 1920, I'm thinking.
No, I'm sorry, 2020,
Okay.
But wasn't that,
That's
I'm
okay.
not that old.
I just want to make, well, we've had a few requests for some things from the future, and now we're getting some things from before I was born. So.
Okay, I beg your pardon, I misspoke.
No, fair enough. Well, to answer your question as a standalone item, I believe it'd be answering it in a vacuum. So if I could give you a little bit of history there, that would be a software policy system driven by state statute, court precedent, supported home rule, local input, not something being imposed by out of state or these think tanks, if you will. But going back in a little bit of history, about that same time was the time that we were doing the $1.5 million grant program for infrastructure for all the communities in the county. By comparison, the grant program for infrastructure that was based off of number of registered vehicles in the community. That's how those dollars were allocated. The communities all submitted new projects that were qualifying. That was relatively easy. I'm kind of looking to legal, if I misspeak on this, that was a pretty straightforward process. The policy program, the one that you're referring to, you are correct, it is and will be historic. It's my understanding it would still to this day be the first countywide system of its nature, and I'm told it would actually be the first countywide system in the nation. It's a higher order of magnitude of complexity and pulling all the details because you get one bite at the apple on that, so to speak. I'm sure you're aware the pandemic came through and we got the word, and an angel gets his wings. That's an old reference there, sorry. The complexity of that, we got the directive from both the federal government and the state government, conserve resources. Now, that's kind of code for hang on to what you've got because we don't know what's coming. And that at that same time, we were focusing on the safety of our public safety forces, police, fire, EMS. We were working with our local leaders through mayors and managers, our township association, and again, we were putting a significant effort to protect the various shifts, the officers. I'm not saying that this project took a back seat, but not being able to travel, not being able to talk to vendors, there were a number of challenges. Fast forwarding, one of the components of this had to do with pretty much a virtual system. If I could, just literally, you'd be able to have it on a personal device as well as a laptop or desktop, all those various points of access. That put it into, interestingly enough, very forward thinking, but it also would be very COVID compliant as far as protecting your staff. You don't have a common book that used to be very common in the day. You'd get a policy book, you'd read through it, and then you go to the last page and you sign it along with 30 other people. So you don't have 30 people handling the one object, it's full tracking. Now, fast forward, I'm sure you've been following the, ARPA, the American Recovery Plan Act funds. There were significant delays getting final guidance. There was a totally made up term of interim final guidance. We've obtained outside legal counsel to work with us to make sure that everything is fully compliant. The complexity, as you may recall, was this was going to be a 5-year rather than a 4-year to get it outside the election cycle of any one elected official so that we could take as much politics out. I'm sure you've heard me use the term cutting down excuse trees. So it would be a hybrid funding of general fund, ARPA, merging that. And again, forgive me, I probably should have qualified what I'm saying is I'm going to give you my best answer to this, but please don't take anything I'm saying as being comprehensive or exhaustive in nature. I'm trying to give you a good faith.
Understand? Yeah, I'm just a thumbnail so that it sounds like it's a program that was a communication between and among the various entities, law enforcement entities, within the community, and it's been a victim of the COVID. It is still desired, and we may expect it somewhere down the road.
I can honestly say we've never been closer.
Okay.
And to continue fleshing out these thoughts, because again, I'm trying to be as close to chronological as possible. We are needing to address both federal procurement standards and state procurement standards. And then on top of that, we'd be having to work with the vendor with individual contracts with the various municipalities, as well as the county being the financing source. Lot of moving parts.
So, I understand.
It's not that anything has been shelved or abandoned, but just in the interest of completeness, it's very much in moving forward. We do have buy-in, and also just again to restate, and I'm trying to take this off the top of my head as best I can, it's also an a la carte type. An agency can adopt as much or as little as they want. If an agency just wants the training component, we're good to go. And Jason, did you have something you wanted to add? Yes, we have Jason Boyd, County Administrator. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, Commissioner, I just, to maybe support your position, I have had a meeting last week with Chief Schultz and Willoughby just to continue to gauge the interest of the local police departments in the county. Appears to be some interest there. We also had a call with a potential vendor to begin to get kind of fine-tuning what a budget would look like for all the first responders, all the police departments in the county. My job is to ensure the federal procurement is met. There is some, there are timelines that our money has to be spent, obviously by December of 26. So how do we contract the needs of the police departments with the contracts of the company in the middle of COVID? So there are a lot of moving parts, but to complement Commissioner Hammercheck's position, it is still moving the ball down the field. So thanks, Commissioner.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Hopefully that answers.
Yes, it does. When I hear that Jason Boyd's on top of it, I feel very comfortable. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I should have started with that then. Mr. Music. Thank you, Mr. Massey.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive. Just two things real quick. We have 5 townships, and Painesville Township is now looking at limited home rule. They'll have their public meeting here in April, and I've been talking to them about that. I know Concord has it. And do any of the other 3 townships, I don't know if they're big enough, but do they have it? There's a couple ways you can get this through the trustees if they vote, how they vote, or there's various other things. I won't go into all of them. But the other 3 townships, they do not. Do you know of?
It is my understanding the other 3 townships are strictly statutory.
Okay. All right. Secondly, primary. We hear about what's going on and so forth. I had asked a while back here, and they had not heard anything. Have you heard anything? A certain number of days we're probably going to get to a point where they may have to change the date or whatever. But have you heard anything about the primary, about where we stand going forward on this?
Had a County Commissioner Association Northeast District meeting yesterday. This was one of the topics. There's deep concern about the viability of the date that is set now. And one of the issues that's really becoming danger close is our military ballots, getting those to those people who are entitled to participate, and they have special rules. The timing windows are becoming a problem. We don't know about the maps, if they're going to be accepted. It's not a good situation. Gentlemen, I don't know if you want to expand on that. No?
Well,
oh, sorry.
Just to quickly jump in, I know that the Ohio Senate voted, I think either yesterday or the day before, to extend the deadline just for the military and overseas ballots, which we call UOCAVA voting. I think the House was voting on it yesterday. My anticipation would be that'll pass, because it would be awfully hard as the state representative to justify not allowing military to vote. But that doesn't really solve the problem. It just buys a little bit more time as we get closer to the deadline. I've talked to the chairman of our Board of Elections and other election officials, and they're very concerned with the practical work it actually takes to put on an election. They don't have a lot of time at this point. We are reaching, and everyone disagrees on what that point of no return is. When is the last day you could possibly pull it together and do it? I know that our Board of Elections will do whatever they're asked to, but at a certain point, there does reach physical impossibility. I don't think that the words constitutional crisis are an overstatement. Based on the Supreme Court's continual rejections of the maps, it's becoming increasingly difficult to see how you can have an election on May 3rd. And my concern is that the state legislature made it very clear in the law that only they can move an election in response to kind of the public outcry when the election was moved in 2020. At a certain point, it's a fair question as to whether the Supreme Court itself, by virtue of making it impossible to hold the election, is de facto moving it. And that's very concerning, because it's literally a crime for any entity other than the state legislature to move the date. So I'm very concerned with the the kind of partisan 4-3 splits we've seen in the Ohio Supreme Court, because they're almost de facto moving the election date, which Ohioans did not want to happen, but for their elected state reps and senators to do. It's a very messy constitutional situation. It's very concerning. But we can't ask for the impossible from our Board of Elections. At a certain point, they will not be able to put on a May primary, and I don't know. I don't think anyone knows for sure exactly when that date is.
Okay, because I wonder, I worked the elections, and the last thing I did there was get the machines ready and tested and repaired and so forth and delivered and set them up, And the Board of Elections needs X amount of time to do their part, once they get a date, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Anyone else? Very good. Moving on. Madam Clerk, first agenda item, please.
In the Utilities Department, resolution accepting a 3-year maintenance bond in the amount of $14,596.75 for water lines for Washington Place subdivision in the city of Eastlake, job number 21-36.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution rejecting the bids received on February 23rd, 2022 for Vine Street Waterline Replacement Phase 1 Project 430W.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, did you want to add something to that?
Sure, thank you, Commissioners. I was going to address this in my report, but I can address it now.
Thanks.
It's similar to January of 2020, I think it was, when there were some issues with pipe availability and pricing, and it seems to be hitting us again now with some of these bids. So the bids received here, the lowest one was about 34% over the engineer's estimate. So we're going to reevaluate that, and the response that we got from the contractors was simply that the materials costs have gone significantly up and the availability also. So we're trying to work around that, giving a little bit more time for construction and continue to bid these out in the future, but it's something that we're running into again like we did a couple years ago.
Gotcha. Very good. Anything else for utilities on that? All right. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution approving participation in Region 13 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution appointing initial Region 13 representative members to the One Ohio Governance Board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. The only thing I would add to this is I would like to thank our mayors and managers and our township association for assisting with the filling out of this board. If there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Sir.
with that passed, I think I would just add to your comments that we thank you, as well as former Commissioner Judy Moran for representing the cities and villages, and Trustee Carl Dondorfer of Concord for representing the townships.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, next agenda item, please.
Resolution declaring certain county personal property obsolete and no longer needed, to wit, SWAT vests, and authorizing the donation of said property to the Seneca County Board of Commissioners for use by the Seneca County Sheriff's Office in accordance with Section 307.12D of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving the reestablishment, relocation, and acceptance of easements along a portion of Rumen Road with Severies County Road number 227 in Perry and Leroy Townships.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Madam Engineer, anything you want to add to that?
Thank you. This is the next step in meeting all of the federal 4F environmental commitments from the Vermin Road project. Step 1 was last week when the commissioners approved the vacation plat for a portion of this section as well.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else for the engineer? Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,164,650.19.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $918,955.28.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations of various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Very good. Moving on to departmental reports. Utilities, Randy. Very good. Thank you, sir. Job and Family Services, Suzanne.
No report today, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, we do have our county engineer here. Do you want to add anything, or are we good?
We're good, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just briefly, as you know, Director Matus has the budget tentatively scheduled, I believe, for next Thursday's adoption. The binders are in the signature file area for your review. Although Mike is out of town, he would be available for any questions you have, and he will be back first of the week next week. So, thank you.
So we should be inundating him while he's on vacation.
Sure.
Thank you. That would be just downright cruel. Anything for the administrator? Thank you. Moving on, Madam Clerk.
Yes, the next regular Commissioners meeting is going to be next week, Thursday, March 17th, 2022. And also I wanted to mention that there's a proposed schedule for April until July that's been emailed, and we'll get that on the agenda in the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Legal.
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Old business. Do we have any old business? Just throw this in there. House Bill 422. Again, our Utilities Director, Randy Roethlisberger, has been absolutely instrumental in helping the County Commissioners Association and working with our legislative representatives, in particular Jamie Callender, on getting some language in there that protects the county and doesn't force any unintended consequences that could cause harm and not be able to collect on unpaid bills. So that's quite a testament there, I have to say. And I think that's everything I have on old business. Anything, gentlemen? Okay, moving on to new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. President,
Sir.
the Commissioner's Office works very hard to acknowledge the many achievements of our residents across Lake County. And while we can never recognize every resident business that's deserving, I will say that I had the privilege of attending the Fairport Harbor Civics Club Founders Day event yesterday. And in addition to Mayor Manross of Fairport Harbor, who was recognized as Citizen of the Year, Billy Unger, who was recognized, age of 19, by the way, recognized as Firefighter of the Year, and Patrolman Trenton Starkey, Fairport Harbor police officer who's actually joining the Metro Parks as one of their newest officers as their Police Officer of the Year. I would be remiss if I didn't note that Linda S. Kaufman won the annual Golden Beacon Award. I need to say that 3 times fast. Golden Beacon Award. And you may not recognize the name Kaufman, but she might just so happen to be the sister of our Lake County Sheriff, Franklin and Bruno. So congratulations to your sister, Linda. Very well deserved.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. All right, if there's no other new business, moving on to second public comments. Do you have anyone wishing to address the board? Sir, Mr. Massey.
I have again, Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive. The one resolution approving participation in Region 13 governance governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes.
Does that have to do with the opioid settlement? I'm not sure what this is all about.
This was the national settlement. I'm trying to get this wording right. I'm going to kind of half look at legal for the drug manufacturers, not to be confused with the one that Lake County was a bellwether. That we prevailed in that, which was against the pharmacies. So the One Ohio is where we're working closely with the Attorney General and the Governor, and that's where there was a structure put in place in Ohio. It was one of the lead states in the nation. I believe New York was the other. They're right there with us neck and neck, if I recall.
So this got the mission of this governing board is to determine a fair and equitable means of distributing whatever money is coming in to the county?
It's a part in the process. That's our local representation for our region, in this case Region 13. Then it goes to a state board. There's a state representative, and then that state board, their mission is to make sure that it conforms. Say a project comes forward and make sure that it conforms with the memorandum of understanding and part of the settlement. The incentive also in getting it done sooner rather than later. The sooner this is established, the more money is obligated to us. The longer we delay, the money goes down.
I see. Thank you so much for explaining that. The second item, you know that I'm a big advocate for the Lake County Board of Elections, and I've been before the commissioners, and I've written several articles about not finding any voter fraud. I was sent an email by the American Policy Center. They sent an article that talked about a system known as ERIC, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center. And I know that from my prior conversations with Mr. McDonald, Ross McDonald, that I know that the county uses the ERIC system. When you read the article, there were some disturbing statements. Basically, this ERIC system, according to the article, was funded by the George Soros Open Society. So for patriots, when we hear George Soros, it's like red meat in front of a carnivore. So we look into it. But what I also wanted to do, I wanted to make sure that when these issues come across the net at us, and I want to make sure I can bat them back, because I do not want the Lake County Board of Elections to be tainted in any way with false allegations. It is simply not acceptable. So what I did was I sent Mr. McDonald, sent an email to him, gave him the chapter and verse of about this article on ERIC, and I asked him to comment on it. And within several days, he responded very quickly to me, and he's basically saying that the ERIC system is more at the state level, and there is no purchase by the Lake County Board of Elections to this ERIC system. There are, if I may read this. We are provided data from the Ohio Secretary of State that does indeed contain ERIC data.
Who are you quoting, sir?
I'm sorry, I'm quoting Mr. McDonald, Ross McDonald, and he responded, this is his response to me, and I think it needs to get out into the community because it totally debunks what was stated in the article, and that's what I want to get across to the people in Lake County. If they're reading this article, don't believe the comforting lies rather than the unpleasant truths. And I'm finding that we maybe all be guilty of that if we have a thought in our head and we read something that may confirm that thought or idea that we had, it's automatically the truth. I've always had a modicum of distrust in anything that I'm reading, and I am a verify then trust type person. That's my mantra. Mr. McDonald said this, if I may read it,
Yes, yes.
Commissioner. We are provided data from the Ohio Secretary of State that does indeed contain ERIC data. The data is used to strengthen the integrity of the voter rolls through multi-state information sharing. The Lake County Board of Election does not pay to participate in ERIC because that relationship is between ERIC and the states, not ERIC and the individual Ohio counties. There are 13 states that participate. I won't read all the states. And he said, as he continues, as you see, there's a mix of solid Republican states, solid Democrat states, and some we see as toss-ups. So this is not a system where all the Democrats are, signing up for this, or all the Republicans. It's a toss-up. My only comment, Ross's only comment on the article, is that we do not use ERIC data to register citizens to vote in Ohio. The act of registering to vote is initiated by the voter under penalty of election falsification, a felony. So when the writer of the article says that it is creating a left-wing voter registration drive, I have no idea how she has arrived to that conclusion. If anything, it shows that the writer has zero technical understanding of how ERIC data is actually used. I'd be curious if she bothered to contact an election official before writing this article. This is a common error we've seen bloggers make ad nauseum even before 2020. ERIC, I would argue, catches individuals who may be actively registered to vote in 2 states at one time, thereby empowering election officials to contact the voter to determine exactly what is going on and to remove them from the state they no longer reside. When a person moves out of state, one of the last things on their mind is, should I cancel my voter registration? ERIC is here to clean up those abandoned active registrations, thus closing potential avenues to fraud. And in conclusion, Mr. McDonald said, at the end of the day, do I think ERIC data has helped prevent fraud and strengthen voter rolls? His answer was yes. So I mentioned that to the commissioners, and hopefully people that are watching this, that just do not always believe what you are reading, because someone's always got an agenda and when they're writing the article. And I say this because at a personal cost to me, for many of my friends that I consider patriots, that are saying, Brian, how can you say that about Lake County election fraud? We automatically know that there's been voter fraud. And I say to them all the time, why do you say that? Prove it to me. So it is not, again, they're believing in comforting lies. One last thing I'll mention to the commissioners, I did receive another phone call from my friends at the FBI, and I then said to them, I'm sorry, I don't speak to the FBI. There is a funny story behind it, but I won't waste your time. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone else? Very good. Okay, moving on, we do have a request for executive session. No business will be conducted afterward. The purpose is personnel, collective bargaining, and personnel discipline. Do we have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the reasons so stated?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Puchnik,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.